Hello, everyone, and welcome along to. I was always going to start it with good evening, but it's definitely not a good evening to be a Rangers fan. Welcome along to our immediate post-match reaction to Motherwell 2, Rangers 2, another 2 drop points for Rangers over this Christmas period, and a really disappointing performance is probably the most or the biggest understatement I'm going to have on this podcast. Joining me to look back over what was a horrible game for Rangers yet again, we've got Ian Mitchell. How you doing, Ian?
Oh, great. Yeah, loving life, as we all are, I'm sure. We should be used to this by now. I think before a ball was kicked today, we all knew what we were going to see, what was going to happen out there. And then you see it, and yes, there's a fight back in the end there, but my God, I'm sick of this, honestly.
Yeah, I think everyone's sick of this at this point. This is what we're sick of it weeks ago, never mind now. We're also joined by Ross Chalmers. How you doing, Ross?
How do I answer that calmly? Yeah, not in a great mood. He's finished. He's got to go. This is. I can't continue to watch this. I think all Rangers fans are in the same place now. This is getting ridiculous. I mean, that first half performance again. How you could match the one at St Mirren the other night is I'm actually quite impressed.
I think it was worse than St Mirren. I thought that was actually worse than St Mirren one. It's
a toss-up, isn't it? It's a toss-up. They're both just as bad as each other. Again, you get a response in the second half, but how many times is Philippe Clement going to have to make half-time changes this season because his selection isn't right and he's not got the response from his team in the first half? It's just abysmal. This Rangers team are abysmal. We're not going anywhere under this manager. And sorry to jump ahead, but that is just where my thoughts are at the moment. He's got to go. This is ridiculous now. I tweeted it earlier after the game finished. That's 11 points from a possible 27 away from home in the league this season. We have scored 9 goals away from home. There's only one team in the league that has scored less goals than us away from home, and it's Ross County. That is how bad this is. This is getting to ludicrous levels of performance. It can't go on. He's got to go. That's it, finished.
Yeah, we're not going to pick apart the game minute by minute. This time
Thank
around,
God.
Please don't. Yeah.
There's just so much other stuff to talk about. There's so many bigger things going on at Rangers and around the performance so far back. I completely agree with Ross. Cards on the table. He has to go. I thought he should have went when after the Dundee United game they managed to stumble upon. I'm not even going to give him the credit of that he found or he worked out what his best 11 was. He stumbled upon a team that managed to work for a few weeks, and then he couldn't help himself. He started messing about with it, making changes when he didn't need to. He put so much emphasis on the sports science team and the performance team. He said it pre-match today as to why that was what the start lineup was. Ultimately, you're coming off the back of a defeat to St Mirren. You go in with your strongest possible team. Hamza Gaman did not look tired when he came on the football park. Vaskar Černý did not look tired when he came on the football park. You go on with your best team and you go out to win the game. We don't have a squad at this moment in time that's good enough to make changes. You play your best team all the time and if they're run into the ground by February, March, then Philippe Clement can hold his hands up and say, I played the best team that I had for as long as I could, and they ran out of steam. We need a better squad. That's when you start to make changes. But messing about with it, especially after a defeat 3 days ago, to massively weaken the team as well, like that is just absolutely shocking. Ian, that starting lineup, as soon as we all saw it, we were just like, "What is he doing?" Was that kind of your reaction?
Had to be. Yeah, I just don't understand it. Like, I mean, there's parts that I can dissect, and there's one or two subs or replacements that can come in, and you're not going to see a big difference. But expecting Dessers and Dowell to give you anything other than what they gave you that first half, like, what have you been watching all season? It doesn't work. Like, if we go individually there, Dessers must be low in confidence, obviously. Third choice, quite obviously third choice at this point. Not getting goals, not getting minutes. How he's expected to just come in and play well. Likewise, Dowell, we've all said it, he doesn't offer anything at all. I'd much rather see a...
Well, why, for example, I'm not Ross McCausland's biggest fan, right? But at least he's a winger. Like, why is Kieran Dowell playing over Ross McCausland? Why is that a thing? It doesn't make sense. There's so many questions in there.
See, the worst one for me is the fact that Cortez hasn't played a single minute for 4 or 5 weeks now. They're on the bench every minute. every second, and then he's played 45 minutes for the B team, 10 days ago? And then you just throw him in for a start? Like, that's absolute desperation. That's all that is. That's just thinking, I don't know what to do here. Let's just put Cortez in. Let's try Dowell at right wing. Like, it's not a manager with a style, with a philosophy. We've all banged on about that for months, but when you're seeing the same crap over and over, what are we expecting to see any different? That's why, again, I think I said this after Kilmarnock, because I would have been much more surprised to see that team go out today and win 3-4-5-0 than what we saw. And we shouldn't be going to Motherwell. I was going to say all due respect, but you can't say that in the same sentence I'm saying here. You shouldn't be going to Motherwell and 2-0 down at any point. That's insane for a Rangers team. And as you guys have both touched on, for me, he's done. He's got to be.
Yeah, Ross, he was clearly the start lineup resting players for the Celtic game, despite being however many points behind. We're now 14 points behind, I think, after today's game, 14 points behind Celtic. Less than a week ago, there were some Rangers fans that were looking at potentially being 6 points behind Celtic as we head into the New Year game. We're absolutely miles off it. But why? What do you think Clement's mindset was as he was picking that team today? We're just off the back of a last-minute stoppage time defeat to St Mirren. We've got Celtic on the horizon. He's looking at the team. Where do you think his mindset was as he was picking that team today?
Well, his decisions to me look like for the long term, don't they? Right. So he's taking players out under the guidance of sports science because he's trying to protect the players for the long term. Now, that also screams to a manager to me that doesn't really worry about his future. He's more just looking at the long term. I need to manage the squad. And there's no doubt he's looking at today and thinking, right, I've got Celtic next week. I need to rest some of these players. You are not in a position to be thinking about the long term. Yeah. You need to worry about the short term. And see, if you've just lost to St Mirren 3 days ago, you need to play your best team against Motherwell at Fir Park. There's just no other way of looking at it. I don't understand how his logic could be, I'll take certain players out, I'll rest certain players, and we'll be able to grind through this game. We'll get to Celtic, we'll have our full strength of tide. You just need to play your best team every single week. There's no debate. I don't really understand. Bringing in the point about Kieran Dowell as well. We've seen from Kieran Dowell now what he is. He doesn't give us enough, right? There may be a player in there somewhere, but he's not showing it for Rangers. Yeah. You're then putting him on the right-hand side out of position. What are you expecting from him? Cyril Dessers, is there a point even going into how bad Cyril Dessers is?
No.
He's atrocious.
Absolutely nothing.
Right?
Absolutely nothing.
He just does not give you anything. You're not going to get anything out of him. And again, the Oscar Cortez one is weird because for me, it's St Mirren the other night. That was screaming out for Oscar Cortez on that left-hand side. I felt like Hadji in the last 20 minutes had ran his race. Yep. He was really low in energy. You've not got any threat from that left-hand side. Cortez should have been on the last 20 minutes to just give us some directness from down that side. Doesn't bring him on, adds that he's not ready yet, then he starts the next game and he plays 60 minutes. None of these decisions make sense. And it comes back to, again, this overall style. Philippe Clement is relying on individual brilliance to get him through games. And you've seen it again today with Hamza, man. Yeah. What a great player we've got. And we should really be celebrating how good this boy is because he comes on and scores 2 goals. Ultimately, it doesn't mean anything because you don't win the game. But why is this boy not playing from the start? He's quite clearly a level up from both, I would actually argue, Danilo and Cyril Dessers, because I don't think Danilo's anywhere near this level he should be. So he should be playing every single minute possible. Again, you take him out, you're 2-0 down at half-time, and I said this the other night in the podcast, you are going to drop points if you have first-half performances like that. We had one again today, and I think all the Rangers support would be in unison here sitting at half-time. You knew we weren't winning today at half-time. There's no belief in this side. See,
I was just surprised we scored 2 goals, to be honest.
There you go.
That game was a surprise in itself.
See when the second goal went in, did either of you see any sort of response from this team? That they were
a few minutes on that. Like, you noticed, because I feel like 2-1 down, we started playing okay, quite like freedom and good movement and stuff. As soon as it goes to each, just reverts to type. Like, that for me is maybe more a player thing, because I don't think Clement's telling them to like sit back and drop in, but I don't get that. Like, even playing 5s, if I level the score in 5s, I'm like, let's get a winner. How are these guys not naturally doing that? It just makes no sense. You see it time and time again. As soon as they get themselves back into position, and don't get me wrong, see if we won 3-2 today, I would still think Clement should go because what I've saw him at the start, I don't think anyone here thinks differently. But it's just so strange. 2 each, and we just go, okay, we'll just fart about with the ball for 10 minutes here, see what happens, see if we get a goal. And again, it was just how many times we watched that same thing.
I just think these players look lost, like completely lost. Because I think we can all say now, we've seen enough throughout the season that there are some good individual players in this Rangers squad, right? You could go through it. Jefty looks a good signing. You've got Raskan who's coming to his best. You've had Igaman. You've had Cherny at times. Look, there are some good players in here, but I don't see players buying into a system. For example, the other night and today, I don't see players falling back on something where maybe the game's not going the best way it could, but there's a belief in what you're doing and you stick to it. I just think they look lost at all times. I don't think anyone really has an understanding of what they're supposed to be doing, and I don't think anyone has the real belief that they're going to go and take the game, take the initiative, and get Rangers back into it. They're waiting for others to do it constantly.
Yeah.
So you're never going to get anywhere with that sort of attitude. I just do not see it. And you're not getting anything from the sideline either, because I just don't think Philippe Clement makes the required changes. And he made the changes at the start of the game today, and you see where that's came with drop points. So yeah, abysmal. Season's an absolute write-off. I think we said early on coming into this season it was going to be very, very difficult, but I did not expect us to be 14 points adrift in December. It's just not acceptable. This is, and it's outside of the results, right? I understand that Rangers have got to win every single game they play. They need to be successful. They need to win trophies, right? So the results are obviously the most important thing. This level of performance is unacceptable. See the quality we have in this squad compared to the rest of the league and the budget we have. Look at what we are getting. It's atrocious. Can't continue.
Absolutely can't continue. And I think as we go through this, it's just more and more bewildering that he's still in a job, to be honest. I mean, if you look at when Gio was sacked, if you look at when Beale was sacked, we were a lot closer to Celtic at those times than we are at this moment in time, and yet this manager is getting more time than anyone else. And at the start of the season, in the summer, when Philippe Clement was given his new contract, we all knew that was the club committing to him for the longer term, assuming that we were going to go through a difficult spell at some point, and the club was just trying to take away any of the noise that was going to be around them in terms of sacking him, because they can just point to the new contract and say, well, we've committed to him, so it's a longer term piece. The problem is that's a very admirable approach, but it's a very admirable approach when you've got the right manager in place. It's a very stupid approach when you've got the wrong manager in place. And it feels very much, Iain, like we've got the wrong manager in place and the club is blindly backing him.
Yeah, that's you have to think the same. I mean, it's not as if we're getting little snippets of positivity and good moments, because even this purple patch we're going on about, we weren't exactly great. Like, we had a couple of good games in there. And as Ross touched on, that was just Clement sort of being forced into play Hadji, forced to bring Danilo back in. Like, he could have done these things months ago and had us closer and sort of worked on that style a bit more. And then your point is exactly right, Craig. The fact that he's just reverted to tie for St Mirren, which made no sense. Played how we thought we'd all play in that lineup. Yeah. And then today, I see his thinking today in the sense of, well, I'll put two strikers on. That might work. But it's not been working because you've got two strikers on. It's working because of some of the individuals have had good moments and good games. Like, you saw a difference when Cherny comes on, because Cherny's a quality footballer. And we give Cherny the ball, things happen. He has the assist, he has a cross from Matondo, heads it, he has good moments that he can maybe carve something out, but that's going back to Ross's original point before, that there's no style here. Like, what are we really watching other than a player doing something good now and again? Like, there's not good positive build up, it's all just lumping it forward at times. The confidence in this team is so rock bottom, and for me that comes from a manager not putting in a style of play and not putting in, I don't like the word philosophy because it's so easy to just throw that word out these days, but there's no club I watch that are worse for a philosophy than we are. Like, I don't get what we are. I don't get what we're trying to do. We sometimes play it from the back. We sometimes lump it forward. We sometimes go wide. There was at times today you saw him just lumping the ball into the box. And we are the worst team for crossing a football. Like, period. We don't work on that. There's no training. Anytime John's on here, obviously touched on what happens in training. And it just isn't good enough. And, I mean, we're paying these guys big money. We're paying big transfer fees, and you're not seeing it. Like, Bajrami's the most recent one that everyone's kind of hating on, and I get it, but there's got to be something within the club wrong when you're bringing a guy in with his talent and ability and he's not getting a game. And again, there's a few more in a similar scenario, but my fear here, and I touched on it before we even went live there, is I want him sacked. But I think the fact that we put up a good fight, he will come out now and probably do his post-match and say we're great in the second half again. But it all means absolutely nothing if you don't win. It means so little. If you start off that bad and have to make 2 subs yet again at half-time, the blame's on you. Like, yes, we can call out players. Yes, we will call out certain players here and there. And I can see Butland's getting a lot of hate in the chat at the moment, understandably, because it was terrible. But it's Clement who's training these guys, putting these guys out. And if you're not doing well enough, then you've got to go.
How many changes was it today? Was it 7?
7 changes to do, yeah.
So,
which is wild in any game.
You've made 2 changes for the away trip to St Mirren, right? And you've lost the game 2-1. And Philippe Clement's answer to that is, I'll now make 7 changes for Fir Park. So you've went into a game, you've not played your best side, you've lost. And his answer is, I'm going to make more changes, actually. Now, he could argue and say, people didn't play to the level, so I took them out. Play the team that has been improving in performances and try and go somewhere with it. Are we all completely blind and think that everything has been answered and we're the best team ever again? No, we obviously don't believe that. But we started to see some sparks there. Continue to play this team and go with it. If there's some bad results along the way, so be it, right? But we could actually see something building. So his answer for St Mirren, obviously, make those changes. We've seen we don't have the quality to make those type of rotations at the moment. And then we went to Fir Park today and he's went, I'm going to make more changes, actually. I'm going to take 7 out. A Czerny out. Jefty coming out. I mean, he's quite clearly been one of our best players this season. And when Ridvan came on against St Mirren our day, it was abysmal. Do you know what I mean? And then he comes in and he plays the next game. It doesn't, there's no logic behind it. And again, the one with Egeman and Deserts is a really easy one to compare. And I understand that sometimes you need to rotate, right? But Egeman is he's a young boy, right? He's been playing plenty of games and he's looked absolutely fine physically. Just throw him in again. Like, you know you're going to get way more out of him than you are Dessers throughout the 90 minutes. He's shown that. He get 2 goals after 20 minutes today. Like, these are the decisions that are ultimately going to kill Philippe Clement. He seems to be making the wrong decision more often than not. His selections are baffling. His substitutions are baffling. I just don't know where we go with this manager. He just doesn't seem to have what we require at the moment. And he talks about the long term and we need to rebuild this aspect of the club. We need to rebuild this. Philippe, your focus has got to be this first team. You don't need to worry about the rest of the club and the academy and all that. And you just need to get results in the park at the moment. You're 14 points behind. This isn't good enough. And if we get the whole thing, of course, we're not privy to it at the moment. We're going to see the post-match presser. If I read anything about, much better performance in the second half and things like that, no interested. No interested. You look at the games at 90 minutes. Were Rangers good enough in 90 minutes to win the game? No. And that's not acceptable going away at Fir Park. Simple as that.
Yeah, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for no other reason than why not. But Iain, the amount of injuries we've had at the back and the defence that's there, I don't think any of us have high expectations of a central defensive partnership of Dujon Stelling, who is valiantly filling in wherever he's needed, but not up to the level we require in that area. And Robin Proper, who has just been a nightmare from start to finish. Really, how much of that is to blame in that defensive uncertainty that's been there pretty much since John Souttar got injured, but also this compounded by then Leon Balogun's injury as well.
Yeah, it's obviously not helping anything from a defensive point of view, but my biggest worry this season has always been what we do up front and what we do in attack. Like, we can concede a goal or 2 per game, but if you score 3, 4, 5 goals, as the other team in Glasgow do, the defensive moments don't really matter as much. It's the fact that we rely on clean sheets and we rely on a defence being solid because our attack's so lacking potency kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Dujon Stelling fan, but the way he's been treated at this club is horrendous in terms of you're a right back, but we're going to put you right mid, or we're going to put you left back now. Okay, we need you at centre back now. And that's great flexibility, but he's clearly not a centre back. He's not got the reading of the game and the awareness. That might come, it might develop that, but in terms of Proper, he is hopeless, for want of a better word. I would rather be seeing Leon King at this point, and I don't think he has a future at the club either. If Proper isn't working, that's something that Clement should be dealing with. in terms of his shape and his formation and trying to protect the defence, whereas it's just a case of try to play players and see what works kind of thing. And as you mentioned, centre-back is obviously the main problem just now, but if that's the case, we've got to be looking, and when this transfer window opens in 2 or 3 days, and fixing that straight away. I don't think bringing a world-class or a top-class centre-back just fixes everything, because we still have all these same issues that are going on. Clement still has these same troubles that he's dealing with, and he's just not fixing. And I mean, I said it before, the comments about Butland are very true. I don't know what's going on with him just now, but his confidence is on the floor, and it just looks like every time we're up against an attack, I fear. Every time another team has a corner, I've got the fear. And it's just all over, not good enough. And I mean, we're all saying here, this is all on Clement, and most of it is, a lot of it is, but these players as well, like, you need something to be trying to buy into here with these guys, and it's just falling apart every time. We had that little bit of hope. We had this thought of, well, if we win the Old Firm game, might go 6 points, and now we're 14 points behind. Like that, saying it just hurts because it's so un-Rangers, and it's just mental, but I don't see it fixing anytime soon.
Ross, we're talking about defence there, but the 2 goals we lost today were absolutely unbelievably shocking. First goal, long ball from the goalkeeper, awful
Where have we
header.
seen that before?
Yeah, awful header from Robin Proper. Hits it off the player. There were some claims for handball. The guy's hand was in against his body, so I don't think it was. One pass, really, they're through, and then Jack Butland is in no man's land yet again. Absolutely shocking from Jack Butland. He's having a nightmare recently, and some serious questions have been asked about him as well. That first goal was horrendous to lose, and somehow the second goal managed to be even worse. A big lumped in cross from the right hand side. 5 defenders, I think, pretty much just standing watching it at a standstill. The Motherwell striker takes a nice touch past Tav, to be fair to him, and a nice finish, but our defence was just standing there like statues. It was awful from basically start to finish in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the second goal. I think, it's a calamity of mistakes again from Rangers at the back in terms of trying to deal with it, and they just don't. I will give credit to the Motherwell forward. I can't remember his name, so I apologise, but it's actually a really good. It's really well taken. You know, it's a great touch inside. He gives Tav absolutely no chance. So again, you can go back to James Tavernier and that kind of one-on-one defending. It's not great at times. He turns him inside out, and it's a great finish. It's actually very similar to the Hamza Iga man we seen in the second half. So, you know, I'll give some credit there. It was a well taken goal, but in terms of building up to that, shocking as usual. We just don't deal with the ball into the box. First goal, I was a bit frustrated at the time because Robin Proper again. It's a shocking header. You know, put a wee bit of conviction in it. Get out to the side. I mean, he's headed it right at the boy. I feel at the time that, it hit off his arm, but I think the rule is that he has to get control of the ball. He has to get control of possession. Because I thought basically if it hit someone's arm in the build-up, it was ruled out, but that's obviously not the case. So felt hard done by at the time, but if that's a rule, that's a rule. But yeah, Jack Butland again, I mean, he just doesn't get down quick enough. He comes out, he rushes out, he's not in a good position. So there's that, obviously. And then there's the one in the second half where he punches it into his own net. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think that's a foul. Like, I think we've got away with it there.
Yeah.
Tony Watt goes up to challenge and he might have his arm across, but I don't think it's enough for Jack Butland to punch the ball into his own net. So I think we've been fortunate. There's the other side of that. I did think we're a wee bit unfortunate with the Lennon Miller tackle. I think that's a red card.
He is over the ball. Yeah, he's over.
Comes over the ball. Again, there's no malice in it. I don't think he's trying to hurt. Is it Raskin? He touches. I can't remember. I don't think he's trying to do him or anything. But he comes over the ball and he hits him high above the ankle. Cortez. Sorry. So I do think that was a red card. So maybe it balances out in terms of terrible decisions. But yeah, I think Butland's got away with on that second one. But yeah, again, he doesn't cover himself in glory.
He also has this that offside one where the guy's like a Mars offside and he's just sort of watching the ball hit off his crossbar. Like, surely a guy who's 6'5" knows where the bar is. Like, just grab the ball or if you're unsure, tap it over. It's calamity.
He's lost all his confidence as well, and it goes throughout the whole team. And I know Iain made this point earlier when you're kind of talking about the individual players and they have to, take the responsibility for this. And I totally agree, right? You can't just say that it's all on the manager and the players don't have to take responsibility. But the way I always look at these things is see if the whole squad are not performing to the level. To me, that's got to come from the manager, right? They can't all just be bad players. They can't all just be playing terribly. I just don't think it works like that, because we've seen in several occasions this season there are good players in here, but it just seems that they all seem to drop in level at the same time. And for me, that comes from the management. That just comes from you're not getting enough out of these players, or you're not setting up in the way that they would expect to be set up, or they've lost faith in you because you seem to tweak it when maybe things aren't required. It's just all over the place. So yeah, sorry to bring it back to the manager again. You can probably see where my main frustrations are today after that result.
Everyone's frustrations are. So
yeah, but I think this comes from the management staff. I just think everyone's lost their confidence. No one's going into these games with anything to really believe in. And I think that's why you're seeing these performances in the first half. And as usual, Rangers give themselves far too much to do. And Motherwell, like you've seen in the last 15 minutes, Motherwell were happy with a point. Fair play to them. That's a good result for them at home. And they had 10 men behind the ball and they made it really difficult. And at that point, we've seen over the last couple of years of Rangers, we struggle in that scenario. We don't have the creativity in this team. Hence, we don't have the creativity in this team when the game's open at times. So what are we going to do when there's 10 men behind the ball? So, yeah, unfortunately, bringing it back again, Jack Button, low in confidence, but they all are, Craig. They're all low in confidence. Something needs to change.
Iain, where do we go from here? We've also got Celtic on Thursday.
What a question.
It's Celtic on Thursday. Ibrox, I don't think any Rangers fan will go into that full of hope or expectation or anything like that.
Nope.
I don't expect the manager to be sacked between now and then. If the club were doing their duty, they should sack him between now and then, but I don't expect that to happen. What do we do between here and Thursday and taking on Celtic at Ibrox and I guess even mounting any sort of challenge in that game?
Pray, maybe. I don't see any way we come out this with any happiness, to be honest. I think if we lost today, he's sacked. The fact that we've drawn the game, I don't think he should stay. Just before anyone says that, I think he should go right now, kind of thing. I'm kind of hoping my phone lights up with some kind of sacking announcement, but nothing so far. But because we've drawn that game and shown a little bit of fight, again, for me, it's far too late, but I think he'll cling on for another game. Going into the Celtic game, I mean, God knows what kind of team he's going to come up with. I just can't see anything but a comfortable Celtic win, to be honest. It sort of takes me back to those games you went to before when they were like streets ahead of us and you just turned up at Ibrox knowing what was coming, kind of thing. I can't see us winning this game at all. The one thing that might go in our favour is that we do better in Europe when teams kind of have the ball against us, and you never know how that goes. I mean, Spurs, we could have easily won that game. Celtic and Spurs play a similar style, but at this moment right now, I just don't see how we don't get back in that game. I think that'll be the kind of final nail in the coffin for them. I don't know who would be coming in next. I don't know if we'd go for the interim route or there's someone waiting. I know Kevin Muscat's deal has ran out or is running out this week. That's going to be an obvious link that we'll see a lot this week. And I think that style of manager is what we need. I'm not saying it's him exactly, but someone that is just going to understand that this league doesn't like playing against fast, aggressive footballers who are technically good, kind of thing. We just cannot go on with this same style because every manager we've had for years now has tried this same approach of being quite cautious, quite sort of careful in their play. It doesn't work anymore. I don't know if we've got the players exactly that suit what I'm talking about, but that's why I think the manager that comes in next has to instill that kind of style and make that like the new Rangers kind of thing, because this isn't working. It's not going to work. I mean, we could beat Celtic and I still don't think it'll work. I don't think Clement should get to keep going here because he's really starting to harm a number of players in this squad. Like their Rangers careers are dying before they can even really begin to take off. You look at like a Diomande, for example. Most of the support now is turned on him and doesn't think he's going to be good enough. He might not be. It absolutely might not be, but we need someone that can at least try and help some of these guys to fulfill their potential, because that's what this model's all about. You can't bring in young, promising footballers and make them go down the way and make them lose confidence and not look good, because then there's no point in this whole project. You need to be bringing in for cheap, selling high, and just repeating that cycle. And for me, Clement's not the guy that's going to ever do that. So I would sack him right now. I'm with you. I don't think that will happen, but I think getting beat off Celtic on Thursday, and that's us done, and finally hitting that button.
Yeah, Craig, can I just pick up on that? I agree completely with Ian in terms of the change in manager here, right? I suppose we'll come to that at the time if it happens, and I would argue and say if they do sack Philippe Clement, then it should be a caretaker for the rest of the season, because we've been in this scenario before. Clement came in last year, you got a bit of a bounce, and then it goes the wrong way. So I think a caretaker for me. But the long term, I think we need to get someone in that has a real clear, distinct style of play and understands what is required in this league. We seem to keep appointing managers that don't really have an understanding of what is required in Scottish football. And then it comes back to the recruitment as well. Robin Proper, who signed that off? Who looked at Robin Proper and thought he is exactly what we require in this league? I don't understand the decisions that are being made, and I think that comes to the recruitment of the manager as well. There needs to be someone brought in that really does understand what is required to get results in Scottish football. Ian alluded to it there. Aggressive front foot football, intensity, pressing from the start. I don't like talking about them, but I'll have to mention them here. That is what Celtic have. They've had that in the last two managers. They have a system that comfortably beats the other 10 sides in this league. Right? Now, you could maybe throw us in there at the moment because they seem to be getting the better of us, but they have a system that works, and then the Old Firm games take care of themselves. That is the level we need to get to. We need to find a style that can beat the other side in this league comfortably. That is it. That's what it has to be. Having an away form of 11 points in 27 is abysmal. You're not finding a style that's working. He's not changing it to find systems that work, and that's the issue I've got. I don't see any real difference between the Philippe Clement side from a couple of months ago to now. The only difference is he's brought in individuals that have a little bit more energy about them. For example, a Hamza Igeman or a Danilo or a Nicholas Raskan. These guys have a little bit more energy about them. Brought that into the side, but as a style, a full approach to this, there's no difference. It doesn't work. He's not been able to work out within a year. I don't think he'll work out in another year. So this is the time to make the change. You referred to it earlier in the podcast, Craig. It's not a good decision to back a manager if you've got the wrong manager. You need the right manager to start with. And I think we've all seen now with the year that Philippe Clement's been in charge, where are the signs that this is going to work?
Yeah.
I don't see any. There's nothing.
We've been asking for him for months.
We spoke about this in the summer.
Yep.
Spoke about the same things in the summer. I don't really see what the manager's trying to do, but you always have that hope as a fan, right? That things are going to turn around. You always have that belief that something's going to spark things into life and you're going to have something to buy into. I don't see anything. There's nothing. This team do not have it under this manager. Change has to be made. How we go about that change, caretaker, whatever, we'll deal with that at the time. But Patrick Stewart has a decision to make. And I hope he makes the right decision, because this can't go on, and the support are just completely disillusioned now. They've just lost their connection with his club again.
Ross, just on Patrick Stewart, I guess he's obviously just walked into the club less than 2 weeks ago. If you're in his shoes and you're thinking, right, I'm trying to get my feet under the table here, I'm trying to work out what's going on, and all of this is going on around you, the fans are in uproar, demanding that the manager is sacked. What do you do? It's a decision that fans will be hyper focused on and will judge you on massively already, less than 2 weeks into your tenure. You barely get your feet under the table. You don't really know what's going on in the club. You've just started digging. What decision do you take? Do you sack the manager, try and start from scratch and get the fans on side early on, or do you say, right, give me a little bit of time to try and work out where the main issues are, and we'll start to address them from there?
No, I think it's gone too far now. If I was in Patrick Stewart's shoes, I would sack him. I would. That's just me being honest. I know it's not a very nice thing about talking someone losing their job, right? But this is football. That's the landscape you're in. That's the terminology used, right? So I would replace the manager. I think Patrick Stewart's got to look at everything, all the evidence he's got. Philippe Clement's been here for a year. we put ourselves in a really good position last season and we threw away the league. So that was the first thing that goes against them. You then get a really favourable draw against Dinamo Kyiv in the Champions League and we lose that tie when we never should have lost that tie, right? You're then going into a league season where poor defeats to Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, you've lost comfortably to Celtic at Parkhead. You now get to this point and you're 14 points adrift in January. And we refer to this era, Michael Beale and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst were sacked for less. They were in better positions than Philippe Clement is in right now. And the argument to say, oh, but that's not been working for us sacking managers. Yeah, you're right. It's not been working for us, but this isn't the right manager. You've picked the wrong one again. So whoever's doing the recruitment and the manager, you're going to have to refresh that as well because that's not working. All the evidence is there. It's not working. It's just not acceptable to be 14 points behind Celtic in December. It's December. This is the fear I have as well, right? They're coming to Ibrox on the 2nd, and now they can play without any fear. They'll come and play the free-flowing football we see from Celtic every single week because there's no jeopardy on the game. If Celtic lose that game, they're 11 points clear. They're not going to come into that. So for me, I think you're going to see a much better Celtic performance than you would have a week ago when we felt like things were closing. Closing is probably a stretch, but you get what I mean. We maybe put ourselves in a better position. They're going to come. They're going to play without any freedom, and with freedom. And I think that's a worst thing for Philippe Clement because I don't know if he's going to have the answers for it. Where I stand at the moment, I don't have any confidence. But yeah, coming back to the question, Patrick Stewart, I think this is going on too long. The evidence is there. All the statistics, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, 9 goals away from home this season. 9. And then you look at the big games again. The first Parkhead game, lost. League Cup final, I know a few things went against us. He lost, right? So that's 6 old firms now, I think. We're going into the 7th and the 2nd.
Yep.
Come on. The evidence is there. It's not a very nice thing to talk about. And I get that we're going to be back to kind of square one again. But ultimately, if we think that's the right decision for the long term, then we've got to make it, unfortunately. And Patrick Stewart's got to be the one to do that. And if he's doing his job properly, he makes that decision.
There was a comment there from Bluebells, which is very apt here. And this can't be a surprise to Patrick Stewart. Like, we all saw his appointment date be the day after the League Cup final. I think we all thought, right, well, that's pretty obvious. If you lose that final, you're getting sacked, kind of thing. He obviously turned it around in a way for those, 2 weeks that things were okay. Obviously had the final, and as Ross says, we're unlucky in a sense. We could have won that either way in penalties, who knows. But we still lost. Things have got even worse at this point. So I don't think Patrick Stewart's suddenly going to think, oh, wow, I didn't see this coming. Like, he will have this sort of plan, even if it was just at the back of his head when he came in, of who might come in or who could be looked at if we have to make that decision. And I think we have to now. I mean, we're all saying it, the comments are saying it. Clement has completely lost the fan base at this point. Like, there was still some struggling and still with them. And again, the final, I think, probably helped in a way, even though he lost because of how he played. But everyone has gave up now. And even if he does cling on and if it's a beating Celtic or wins a few games in a row, the next loss, and we'll all be calling for him to go again. So we know he's not long term. The sooner we do this, the better for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Kyle 1872 sums up the feeling amongst us and the feeling amongst a lot of Rangers fans when he says every test he's had, he's failed. Get him out tonight. I think we would all be very happy if Luke Clement was to no longer be Rangers manager by this time tomorrow. But the level of confidence I have in that decision being made is next to zero. But we'll keep an eye on that one. Thanks very much to Ross and to Iain for joining us tonight. Thank you very much for everyone that's participated in the comments. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please do drop a like on the video. Please do subscribe to TII YouTube channel, and we will continue with our coverage of Rangers over the coming days and weeks. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Until next time, goodbye.